Hi folks, I think it is time for me to start to get back on track with some of these videos. Sorry about some of the lighting. I think there's a way in which I thought, anyway, the sun's rays are doing what they're doing, but this is a nice spot. I was further behind next to the avocado tree, but it's a nice day in Southern California. It's not as hot as it's been, so plenty of people in surrounding buildings are outside. First and foremost, thank you for sticking with me, subscribers, because I am so unpredictable with regard to when I do videos. Sometimes I will do 2 or 3 videos in a row, and sometimes then I take a break for a few days and then come back. So there's never any knowing when a video is going to be placed, and I really appreciate your just kind of sticking with me and coming back to view my content and subscribing to my channel. Number 2, I thought before I get started on stuff, let's just do a very brief recap as to where things are at energetically right now. We had a lunar eclipse. We had 3 eclipses over the summer. As I've mentioned to you, the summer, particularly since May the 13th till about at least the middle of July, if not into August, are a time when a lot of the forward movement of April, which may not have seemed like forward movement because so much was locked down, but there was a lot of we've been ushered into a new world and a new set of circumstances, and both in terms of our values and what we value, and soon with Mercury going retrograde on June the 9th in a few days' time, we're going to be processing through a lot of what everyone collectively is going to be dealing with and reeling from and trying to make sense of what this new reality means for us and where does it place us and what is next for us. In the middle of it all, of course, over the summer, we've got 3 eclipses, not 2. And so there's a lot there also in terms of changes and things manifesting and occurring in a way in which we really don't feel like we have a lot of control. Eclipses are a time, as I've said on this channel, when God takes the wheel and fated events occur. And so whether they are positive or challenging, there's an element of simply not being in control of our fates and destinies and lives right now. And that is probably the most present, and delay, the fact that it is not here, it being a time when we can actually do something and create something and move forward and know where our lives are going and what it all feels like. I think certainly by the time, I think we have to think about maintaining a sense of patience and equanimity until we get to at least the middle of July. Mercury goes direct on July the 13th. So I would even say July the 20th or so. But keep in mind that we have the new moon solar eclipse in Cancer on June the 21st, but then we have another new moon in Cancer on July the 20th, which keeps us in this Cancer lunation till about August the 20th. I would say end July and into August is when we really have a sense of, okay, I can start driving again, whatever that means and whatever that looks like. So 3 eclipses over the summer and a certain amount of catching up on a very personal level with regard to trying to make sense of what a lot of the changes in 2020 have meant for us. As I've mentioned, the summer is actually the rockiest part of this year, strangely enough, even though a lot of rockiness came through in March and April, because our own ability and capacity to process is being tested and is being put to the test and is being put to use. And there's only so much sense we can make of things right now. Wow, the sun is like a spotlight on my hair. Okay, first and foremost, as far as COVID is concerned, since we're talking about it, there have been lunations certainly where the topic of healing and also the topic of liberation from lockdowns and quarantines, lunations where we've seen a certain amount of progress. But I think that with the second Jupiter-Pluto conjunction of this year, when both Jupiter and Pluto are retrograde on June the 29th of this year, at the end of June, my concern is that over the next few weeks we're going to see an acceleration of cases, not a deceleration of cases. So I've said this before a couple of times, I'm going to say it again, just to say that I would advise people who are vulnerable to continue to remain cautious. Astrologically speaking, you consult your medical professionals, please, with regard to whatever it is that pertains to you, and use your sense of judgment. But since you are choosing to listen to an astrologer, I'm just going to mention that there's a recapitulation, there's a trying to make sense of certain things that is going on right now both in terms of issues related to power struggle, revolution. It's kind of a year of revolution in many respects, and we're seeing it playing out. And things needing to end so that there can be new beginnings. So all of that is playing out on a macro level, socially and politically. But as far as COVID is concerned, the astrology of it, as we head towards the end of June, there can be an acceleration. I think we're already starting to see this in the news as lockdowns are easing up. There's a lot more in the news about the fact that cases are increasing. So I would be careful and I would be cautious, especially if you're around people who are vulnerable or if you are vulnerable yourself, whatever that word means to you. It's a hard time because we're impatient to move forward. Number two, in some ways, as I've mentioned, it's a tricky and a frustrating summer and a challenging summer in many regards, because there's a feeling of change. There's just during eclipse time when God takes the wheel, and then when Venus is retrograde and we're being called upon to go over past relationship issues and evaluate where we are financially and what makes sense for us and what we value and why we're doing what we're doing and what is important to us and what is at our core. And now soon Mercury will be going retrograde in less than a week, at this point in time. So having to go over things even as far as our mind is concerned, and communication and cognition and processing things and looking over details, and there's a certain amount of looking at the rear view mirror or looking over our shoulder that is going on right now, and not enough sense of what is to come and clarity around how we're going to move forward. That makes this a frustrating time of needing to be in action and meet every opportunity that comes your way, which is essential when it comes to eclipses. Okay, so definitely if there are opportunities or things that are coming your way, and as I've said, all eclipse times are not negative. So there are people who can experience a dramatic and eclipsy and sudden and really kind of chapter turning positive experiences too, contracts, career developments, etc. So meet the opportunities and try to be a little less fixated right now on rushing to an outcome, because you don't quite know how things are going to be designed. Sorry, I told you it's like a gorgeous day in Southern California after a few really hot ones. So everyone is outside, and I stubbornly insist on doing these videos outside. In some ways, strangely enough, between now and the end of June may well prove to be one of the most telling and problematic and challenging times that we go through, because Venus, which is retrograde in Gemini, so having to reevaluate our relationships and finances, especially dealing with past relationship issues and processing them, perhaps dealing with past opportunities and trying to meet them, really trying to focus on what it is that we value, what it is that we desire, what owns us, what we own. All that process comes to an end around June the 25th when Venus goes direct. And Venus is direct in Gemini, going over a lot of the same degrees it's gone over while it's been retrograde since May the 13th till about August the 7th. And so we are going to be entering a time period as we head into July, and especially starting the end of July, when we're going to be implementing, taking actions on what it is that this reevaluation means. However, Venus goes direct on the 25th, and that would normally be something to look forward to. But a week before Venus goes direct, we have Mercury going retrograde in Cancer, and I'm going to develop this more in my next few videos. Remember, we're only done with one of 3 eclipses on June the 5th. And for that particular eclipse, the energy was definitely murky and challenging, and Mars and Neptune became conjunct today. And if what I'm saying is of interest to you, please go back and take a look just click on my list of videos, and you'll go back and take a look at the past 2 or 3 videos on the eclipse and on Mars conjunct Neptune. Dealing with murky energies for some of us, dealing with a certain amount of deception perhaps for some of us, or under the radar behavior, or a certain amount of manipulation, or a certain amount of gaslighting. And it has to be said, in a more positive context, artistic epiphanies, a move towards fantasy, a move towards greater connection to spirit or spirituality could also have been on the cards for certain people. A certain amount of behind the scenes activities. A lot of that peaked as we headed towards today. So the murkier and the heavier part of the new set of energies that has announced itself with regard to what we're going to deal with because the June 5th eclipse was the first of eclipses that are going to accompany us now till the end of this year and indeed till the end of 2021. So certain themes have been introduced in a somewhat challenging way. There's been sort of a throwdown. Now the two eclipses that are coming up on June the 21st and July the 4th are going to be the final eclipses on the Cancer-Capricorn axis. So the fact that Mercury goes retrograde in Cancer has a great deal of meaning, and I will cover that in my next video. But the bottom line is, just as Venus, the planet of value, self-worth, what we consider of worth, and how we place our relationships and our financial decisions within that context, just as that is getting ready to go direct, and we start to implement and think about what we want to do with some of the past relationship issues, the past opportunities, etc., that we've been dealing with, Mercury goes retrograde, throwing logistical curveballs, causing delays in traffic, misinformation, confusing information, things that need to be looked at again, data. The universe's message is clear. If you're going to act again, try to postpone acting until the middle of July and be in a place where you are looking over your shoulder and cleaning things up and preparing for the new, which will start to emerge more as we head towards the end of the July and the beginning of August. And in some ways, as we head to when it is that planets slow down, either to go retrograde or direct, and that would be June the 19th, followed by a new moon solar eclipse on the 21st, and then with Venus going direct on the 25th. That time period might actually be quite challenging. It might have a certain amount of conflict, might have some information that is murky, might lead to a certain amount of miscommunication, might lead to, the planet of communication and cognition and making sense of things and processing things in our mind, and the planet that governs our relationships and our finances, both of them come to a halt. One to go retrograde, one to go direct. So in some ways, the energy might be at its most suspended and confusing, and what is happening, and I thought it was going to go this way, and is it going to go this way, and I don't know, patience, patience, patience. Meet every opportunity that comes your way. I'm no longer second guessing my own astrology after the new moon and Gemini video I did twice, where I proved to be right, even though I was doubting my own predictions, so to speak. There's a lot that it resembles a little bit like the universe kind of throwing a tantrum in a pram if it was a baby and throwing things out of the pram. There's a lot of, I don't know, I can't make sense of this, right? That kind of energy. And so it becomes important to meet every opportunity as you can. Don't try to rush things. I know we are frustrated. Be careful and cautious as far as COVID is concerned. Watch the news, talk to your doctors, see what's happening to the numbers as the opening occurs. It's going to stay with us till the end of this year, till the end of November at least as far as I'm concerned. It may stay with us for longer, but at least in terms of trying to find solutions that allow us to function more effectively, some aspect of this stays with us till then. My phone is giving me a battery warning. Okay, well, you know what? Here's where we're at, guys. We had one eclipse on the 5th that was marked, the first of the new eclipses that was marked with some. Take a look at my last few videos if you want to get a sense of where we were at with that eclipse. 2 more eclipses coming up, but most importantly, we're preparing for Mercury go retrograde, Venus to go direct. So just be prepared. I would say be very present, be very aware to what is happening and what is playing out. This is the time when the energy of things feeling like they're out of our control is going to be the most pronounced. This is when we're really going to feel like, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what's happening, I can't control this, I'd like to be able to control this, I'd like to be able to live normally, but I just don't know. I cannot. The river's going to flow and you're just going to have to sit on it. But it becomes very important to be present, because it might be very interesting information, decision making. I don't know that you can trust it. I don't know that you have to hang your hat on it. You will certainly be affected by it, but you've got to wait for things to continue to play out. A certain amount of relationship and financial clarity will start to emerge, let's say by the end of June onwards, and then with regard to how you really want to proceed, and if there are contracts to sign or agreements to finalize, some of that may start to make its way more after the end of July. So just keep your wits about you for now. understand where we're at cyclically. It's a rough summer. It's an important summer. Let's put it that way. There are opportunities for a lot of people. There are things that are showing up. Everyone is trying to make sense of everything right now, and not a lot makes sense with regard to predictability and whether we have reasons to be optimistic and happy or content or not, or is everything going to fall apart, or will there be more delays? So it requires a certain amount of patience and presence. And the presence will allow you to try and make sense of what is coming up, so that as you continue to evaluate what is in line with what you value in terms of your goals and ethically and morally, and continue to understand that there may be things that need to be reviewed and relooked at from the past, by the time you make it to July the 15th or so, and especially July the 20th, a lot more clarity may occur, and you may have a much greater sense of which direction and where you want to move in and where you want to go. Certainly decisions related to what you value, you're going to start implementing after the end of June. I would just again say, if there are decisions and commitments you can postpone till the middle of July, and there often aren't. Sometimes you're asked to make decisions and make commitments while Mercury is retrograde. You may have Mercury retrograde in your chart, which means that you may be in line with and in sync with Mercury retrograde energy. This is a general reading. But if from a general perspective, things are presented in such a way that there's a chance to not commit to something till the middle of just, it's a time to be present, it's a time to be patient, it's a time to let things continue to just kind of splash around a little bit. Okay, next video I will focus on the energies in Cancer and Capricorn, because that's where we're headed, and we'll talk about those. We have our next new moon in a week's time, June the 21st, and it's an important one, and we'll start preparing for a new set of energies, frankly. I can't imagine that the energies that took us from April the 5th to June the 5th were without their challenges, and some of the lunations and some of the things. We are 4 to 5 weeks away from greater clarity. Okay, it's not that long, so you've made it this far. Just hang in there. If you found this video useful, feel free to share it, tell your friends about it, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you, subscribers. Click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button to be notified when I do new videos, since I'm somewhat quixotic about that. Sorry about the sunlight in this, but it was kind of fun, I think. I hope. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. Oh, look. Oh, now you can actually see me. Oh. And golly, feel free to leave a comment if you comments and likes on YouTube give the video more circulation, or so I believe, so I'm meant to believe. And my contact information, my email address is in the description area after I'm done processing this video. So you are welcome to reach out to me to inquire about rates for readings, or if you want me to make an easy to read version of your chart that tells you which sign is in which house and what those houses stand for, I can do that too. But you're going to need to know your birth time for that. So do not send me your birth time until you reach out to me and ask about rates, and make sure you're okay with that. Okay, I don't want to collect your personal information unnecessarily. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Glad to be back in circulation. Glad to be standing under this calamansi tree, which is giving out more fruit, which is wonderful. I don't know that you needed to know that necessarily. Southern California can be quite a garden. Okay, I will leave it at that, and I will be back in touch. Bye.